Aloha, Hawaii Prepper. I'm going to take you back in history. Preparedness-wise, emergency-wise, regarding my state and what actually solidified me as becoming a bona fide prepper. There were a couple major incidences that pretty much, set the flame of fire under my butt. The main one that did this was Hurricane Iniki, and this hurricane hit the state of Hawaii in 1992 in September. Hawaii is a chain of islands, and there are 8 islands that make up the state of Hawaii. And the hurricane did affect all of the chain islands, some not as bad as others. And the main island that it affected drastically was Kauai. And it struck Kauai on September 11th, and it did major damage to that island. It did damage parts of the other islands, but that was such a critical moment for me. My family is basically supposedly prepared because of our religious background as Mormons, but that can slide. You can become complacent, and back then I was complacent, but 1992 kicked things into high gear for myself. I got up, and my boyfriend at the time, I got a call early in the morning, and he was screaming and yelling at me over the phone, telling me, get up, get ready, there's a hurricane coming our way. And I was just in La La Land, actually. And so I drove out, I went down to the supermarkets, I went to the gas station. Unbelievable lines going everywhere, supermarkets completely ransacked, emptied out, gas station lines, no end in sight. I ended up turning back around and just going back home, and that moment woke me up, and from then on I began to prep. That was my prepper journey that began with that one disaster. Now, fast forward to 2018, when the state of Hawaii received a missile alert on the morning of January 13th in 2018. A ballistic missile alert was accidentally issued via the emergency alert system and a wireless alert system over television, radio, cell phones, all over the state. And it took a full 38 minutes for the alarm to be retracted. People were terrified. People were freaking out. And when they were alerted about this ballistic missile hurtling to our state, everyone was going nuts. Talk about an entire state running around with their heads missing like chickens without heads. It was crazy. That day was crazy. I distinctly recall that day. Fortunately, I was off that day. I was at home. My husband was at work. And when I got that message over my cell phone, as the entire state received it, I didn't know what to think. You know, I've heard so many stories on that day of how people were reacting. People on the freeways, people wherever they were, they would hop out of their car, they would pull up the manhole, the cover to the manhole, and they would drop their kids into the manholes. They were so freaked out that they were doing anything and everything. People were calling other people as if sending them their last goodbyes and messages and I love yous to whoever they knew, family, friends, relatives here or abroad. I mean, it was insane. It was insanity. I cannot express the level of terrifiedness that was going on in everyone here. So, reason being, I'm bringing up these emergencies and these disasters that did occur in my state, that began my journey as a prepper. Reason being that I am talking about these things is that anything and everything can occur at any given moment. The potentiality is even greater in this now moment that we are all living in. As we can see, all the shortages, everything, economic disaster, one after another occurring, everything occurring simultaneously. We need to be prepared. We always need to be in that state of preparedness. And disaster comes in many forms. A few years back, my husband was diagnosed with a brain tumor right there. How do you prepare for something like that? You know, you do your best. You do whatever it takes, whatever you are capable of doing to prepare as much as you possibly can for yourself as well as your family. Basically, I've learned to roll with the punches and adjust, navigate, shift, because everything is always changing. That's the one constant that we all have in life, is change. And it's continuously moving in a fluid, effortless way, seemingly. But, you know, a lot of it can be chaotic as well. And, you know, how do we approach, how do we deal with these different types of emergencies and different types of disasters? We deal with them as best as we can. Stress and all becomes a part of it. Worry becomes a part of it as well. But always remember, worrying is like a rocking chair. It keeps you doing something, but gets you going nowhere. So my journey began in 1992, and I've never stopped after that. I've never stopped continuing to gain skills, greater knowledge, know-how in everything and anything that I need to do preparedness-wise, living in the state of Hawaii. My state is totally different from your state. Like I said previously before in another video, our climate is different. The ways of things are different, but there are stark similarities with all of us, despite where we live in the nation. Hawaii is so remote from the other states. I'm not sure if that's good or not good. You know, we have a lot of military here, and you know, Hawaii is a strategic point militarily. But when it comes to shipping and consumables and food and things like that, our consumables everything is shipped and or flown here. So approximately 90% of what everyone in the state of Hawaii consumes, uses, eats, cars, fuel, everything, just everything, it's all flown and shipped here. So it pretty much sucks if something drastic really occurs. And with that missile mishap that happened in 2018, if a ballistic missile ever touched ground here, we'd be part of the Pacific Ocean, literally. You wouldn't see a rock popped out of the Pacific Ocean like it is now. We'd be part of the water and everything else. We wouldn't even exist here anymore. So that was a big mishap, what happened that day. But from then on, people were pissed at everything that occurred that day. There are a lot of theories, a lot of conspiracies. Some people thought that the missile came from North Korea. Just a lot of hoopla added to it. And the individual working at that emergency system place was fired. So anything can happen, guys. Anything can happen. And that's why it's imperative to always be prepared with anything and everything for you and your family. Shelter, food, water, protection. All things that we use and utilize in our daily living. Go through all of these things. Go through your pantries. Go through your list. Reorganize, organize. Look at the gaps that you have. Fill in those gaps. Check on your bank accounts. Check on your emergency cash stash. If you don't have one by now, if you don't have emergency cash outside of any banking institution, you might want to start one. With the way of things that are going now, and electricity, power outages, perhaps even bank shutdowns, you might want to get that insurance for yourself going. I'm not sure how much money you're going to set aside. That's something for you and your family to decide, and where you're going to hide it and protect it as well. You might want to have a safe, a fireproof safe, just in case. I don't know how you're going to do it, but do something. Do something to have extra cash on hand. Be sure that the cash that you do have on hand is in smaller denominations. If there's a power outage, no store will accept checks. They won't accept credit cards and debit cards. There's no power. And people these days that work in these stores, businesses, cashiers, do not know how to count back change. So you're going to need that skill and calculator in your head to calculate all of that up for them, so that they don't give you back the wrong change and or no change. So preparedness entails so many different things. The umbrella of preparedness is tremendous, and it never hurts to go over things, to practice things, to put things into application, as well as, with your family, having something that everybody is on board or somewhat on board. Because I know the difficulties when family members are not on board. And I've been struggling with that with my husband for decades. But now he's more or less on board with me, and he's seeing the light. He's actually seeing what's going on out there. So, if you come up against a roadblock, a wall when it comes to helping your other family members and relatives and explaining things, sometimes you're just going to let you're going to have to let things go. You're going to have to let everything around that's happening be their sign. You can only do so much. Always remember that. So they need to do their part as well. But I just wanted to come on here and talk about the history for me regarding preparedness. And thank you once again for watching. Thank you for subscribing to my page. I want you to all have a blessed day. Be safe. Keep prepping and take care. Aloha.